There exists an experience he will never be able to rationalize through reasoning alone. A woman steps into the space, and nothing overtly remarkable takes place. No melody fills the air, no illumination trails behind her. Yet something deep within him quietly straightens itself, as though someone had spoken an ancient, long-forgotten name. He tells himself this is merely attraction. She possesses beauty, holds his interest, or simply differs from the women who typically capture his notice. He attributes it to the curve at the corners of her mouth, or the way her eyes seem unhurried in proving anything to anyone. Yet beneath his conscious awareness, a gentler truth whispers softly, "I recognize her from somewhere I have never visited." He has encountered thousands of faces that received glances, held gazes, invited flirtation, then passed by. He understands what it means to crave a body, the narratives that serve as distractions, but this feels entirely different. It resembles standing before a mirror that reveals a version of his spirit he was never permitted to witness. When laughter escapes her, something within his chest loosens, as if someone unlocked a sealed chamber from the inside. When her gaze finds him, all his customary masks fall away. The charming inflection, the practiced distance, the minor games that once shielded him suddenly appear flimsy and childish. He cannot explain why he desires to be truthful with her, only that he does when she is near. He experiences an odd sense of remembrance, as if they once argued and reconciled in another lifetime. As if at some invisible moment in the future, they sat together at a kitchen table, conversing about nothing and everything while daylight outside faded. It is not a dramatic familiarity, but a quiet one that troubles him. Carl Jung once expressed that the meeting of two personalities resembles the contact of two chemical substances. If any reaction occurs, both are transformed. He does not know this quotation, but he feels its validity in his bones, because something within him responds to her in ways that promise change. He notices how the world sharpens when she is nearby. The light on the wall, the way time stretches and contracts. Around small moments, the silence between her words, he becomes painfully aware of himself, not from insecurity, but because his spirit rises closer to the surface. Outwardly, nothing extraordinary is happening. Two people stand in a space and speak of work, friends, or mundane matters. But internally, his entire existence rearranges itself to make room for her presence. He does not understand this as recognition. He only knows that walking away from her feels wrong, like leaving a book open on its most beautiful page. His body retains a quiet longing for her voice, for the curve of her thoughts, as if an internal magnet finally discovered the direction it was always meant to turn toward. Later he will attempt to convince himself he is exaggerating, that it is foolish to feel this way so early. But a deeper part of him already knows he is not simply drawn to her. He is remembering something his spirit knew long ago. Before his mind could catch up, before meeting her, he already carried a woman within himself. Not an actual woman with a face and name, but a sense of femininity, a quiet internal image that surfaced in dreams, reveries, and those strange moments when music made his chest ache without reason. In childhood, he sensed her as a softness dwelling beneath his hardness, a desire to comfort rather than conquer, an instinct to protect small things, a need to hear the silence in a room. Before speaking into her, he understood early that the world did not know what to do with this part of him, so he constructed armor for himself. He learned jokes, boldness, and how to hide his tenderness behind precise timing. He chose logic over intuition. He listened more to the expectations of other men than to the quiet voice in his chest. But the inner woman within him never vanished. She simply withdrew into shadow and waited. Sometimes she reached him through the women he dated, through his attraction to sensitivity, creativity, or mystery, through his fascination with eyes that seemed to look beyond his facade. He thought he was simply following a type. In truth, his spirit was seeking a mirror. He tried to transform every woman into this internal image. He projected onto their faces his fantasies of softness, safety, and emotional warmth. And when they did not match this invisible script, he felt confused and disappointed, not knowing why. He was actually angry, not at them, but at the distance between his internal world and reality. Jung described this inner woman as a bridge. She is the part of a person that connects him to his feelings, his intuition, and depths that logic alone can never reach. When he honors her, he becomes more whole. When he ignores her, she transforms into moodiness, resentment, or obsession, whose source he cannot comprehend. For many years he crossed this bridge in dreams, but rarely in waking life. Often he would wake from a vivid dream about a woman whose face he could not recall. Tears in his eyes and an inexplicable longing in his chest. By breakfast he pushed it aside and thought it meant nothing. Nevertheless, the inner woman continued arranging small encounters. A film that tore him open, a song that made him fall silent. A stranger on the train whose simple presence moved him. Each of these scenes was a quiet rehearsal for the day when his spirit would see its reflection in daylight. When he meets you, the invisible and visible finally collide. The feeling he carried since childhood stands before him in shoes, skin, and eyes holding both storm and sunlight. The bridge that once existed only in his unconscious now has living form. He has no words for this. He only knows that you speak a language his heart has been fluent in for years, though his mind never learned it. You remind him of every dream he ever had about being more honest, tender, awake. This is why his reaction to you feels larger than the moment itself. If your presence touches the place where his inner femininity waited to be seen and honored, in you, he does not simply see a woman. He meets his spirit at the water's edge and understands that the reflection looking back at him is also himself. At first, you might not even notice how the atmosphere changes when his attention turns to you. You take him for another man who listens politely, a smile, a nod at the right time. Yet when you speak, you sense something different. You feel how his presence leans toward you, as if your words were not sounds, but pieces of a map he has long been searching for. He remembers things you yourself forgot long ago. How you drink coffee when tired, unlike those moments when you are full of hope. The story you once told about a book that comforted you as a lonely child. Weeks later he mentions it gently, and you are surprised that someone listened attentively enough to remember. When you speak, he does not scroll his phone. His eyes do not wander to the door. His gaze remains on you, not demanding, not possessive, but calm, vigilant, deeply attentive. He listens even to your casual jokes with a softness that lingers after the laughter fades. He does not just laugh at the joke. He remembers how your lips curve around mischief, the quick flicker of light in your eyes. He collects these details like a person who finally found a language he wants to speak fluently. His questions are different too. He does not just ask what you do, but what it does to your spirit. He wants to know what keeps you awake at night and what silence you need to feel safe. When you answer, he listens with his whole body, as if the room shrank to the distance between your voice and his heartbeat. You notice he often becomes quiet after you share something vulnerable. Not the silence of discomfort, but the silence of someone holding space for your words to settle. He does not rush to fix your pain or redirect the conversation to something lighter. He stays with you in that tender, unguarded moment, as if bearing witness were a sacred act. In his presence, you feel a strange permission to be incomplete. You do not need to perform strength or hide your uncertainty. He does not need you polished. He simply wants you real. Over time, you begin to see how he changes around you. Not in obvious ways, but in small shifts you cannot quite name. He becomes more thoughtful with his words, as if he is learning a new precision for truth. He apologizes when he realizes he has been defensive, not because you demanded it, but because something in him began to care about the quality of his own integrity. You notice he reads more, thinks longer before speaking, asks himself questions he used to avoid. He is not trying to impress you. He is trying to match the depth he senses in you. There are moments when he looks at you, and his expression holds something ancient. Not desire in the usual sense, but a kind of reverence. As if he were standing before something holy he had only read about in myths. In those moments you feel seen in a way that makes you uncomfortable, not because it is intrusive, but because it is too accurate. He sees past the surface you show the world, and recognizes the person you are still becoming. This terrifies you sometimes. You are not used to being known this thoroughly, but he does not use what he sees against you. He does not weaponize your vulnerabilities, or turn your honesty into leverage. Instead, he treats your inner world with care, as if it were something precious he was entrusted to protect. This gentleness disarms you more than any boldness ever could. You begin to wonder if you have ever been loved like this before, not for what you could give, but for who you are when you think no one is watching. He does not try to change you or mold you into someone more convenient. When you express opinions that differ from his, He listens with genuine curiosity rather than defensiveness. When you need time alone, he does not interpret it as rejection. He understands that your solitude is not about him, but about the way your spirit needs space to breathe. This understanding feels rare, almost miraculous. You have known too many people who took your boundaries personally, who saw your need for independence as a threat to their importance. With him, there is room for both closeness and autonomy. He does not cling to you out of fear or insecurity. His love feels spacious, as if he trusts that you will return not because he forced it, but because you genuinely choose to. This kind of trust changes something in you. You begin to relax in ways you did not know were possible. Your nervous system learns that it is safe to be vulnerable here. You watch how he treats others when he thinks you are not paying attention. The kindness he extends to strangers, the patience he shows when someone is struggling, the way he speaks about people who are not present. These small acts reveal his character more than any grand gesture could. You realize that the way he sees you is not an exception, but an extension of how he moves through the world when his heart is open. There are days when doubt creeps in. You wonder if you are reading too much into his attention, if this connection is as significant as it feels, or if you are simply starving for recognition and seeing what you want to see. But then he does something small, remembers a detail you mentioned in passing, asks a question that shows he has been thinking about your conversation long after it ended, and the doubt dissolves. This is real. This is not projection or fantasy. This is two people meeting at a depth that cannot be faked. You begin to notice how your own inner world shifts in his presence. You become braver with your truth, more willing to speak the thoughts you usually keep hidden. Your laughter comes easier. Your body holds less tension. You find yourself thinking differently about your life, questioning patterns you had accepted as inevitable. He does not tell you to change. His presence is simply a mirror that constantly invites you to grow into your own authenticity. You notice he is not obsessed with where you are, not because he does not care, but because a deeper reverence for your inner world has taken root in him. He wants your yes to be free, so that if you choose him, he can trust the authenticity of that choice. There is a gentleness in how he holds your connection. He does not push your heart. He does not punish you when you need time. Instinctively, he understands that anything he tries to force could destroy the very thing that makes your bond sacred. This does not mean he is passive. When it matters, he tells you honestly what he feels, which surprises even him. He may stumble over words, but you sense they are coming from a place that has long been practicing truth in the darkness. He begins to care not only about how you see him, but about how he sees himself when he is with you. When he acts from fear, he feels it more sharply. When he chooses kindness over ego, he sleeps more peacefully. Your existence becomes a quiet compass, constantly leading him back to his own spirit. And if you look closely, you will see he does not want to possess your light. He allows it to teach him. The love he feels for you transforms him into a much larger version of himself. And he follows it slowly, not perfectly, not without resistance, but with sincerity that always returns, even when his doubts want to distract him. She, on the other hand, has no idea how deeply she is seen. In her awareness, she is simply herself with ordinary doubts and small insecurity that she carries like pebbles in her pockets. She sees in the mirror only tired skin, fine lines around her eyes, unruly hair. She does not see how his spirit exhales when she enters the room. She tells herself that men are often charmed for a while and then move on, that this interest will fade when she is not always easy or available. When he looks at her with his calm, steady gaze, she assumes he will eventually grow bored. She does not understand that what holds him is not her perfection, but the unique shape of her spirit. There are nights when she lies awake and replays her mistakes like a cruel film, times when she loved too much, stayed silent too long when she should have established a boundary. She believes these are reasons someone might leave her, but he sees in them a tender history that transformed her into the woman standing before him now. Perhaps you recognize yourself in her, in how she diminishes her softness, in how she makes strangers feel safe, in how she does not trust her intuition because it does not match the clear logic the world worships. She does not realize that it is precisely this intuition that draws his inner world out of hiding. Jung often suggested that we fall in love not simply with people, but with an image of the spirit that speaks to who we ourselves yearn to become. He is not blinded by her, but awakened by her, because something in what she feels and knows answers a question he has long carried in the darkness. And yet, she wonders, is she enough? She fears the magic will disappear once he truly knows her. She thinks she must be wiser, calmer, more confident to deserve the way he looks at her. In truth, he is moved by her honest becoming, not a perfect version of herself. He notices how she cares for small things others overlook, how she pauses before speaking when she senses someone's fragility, how her laughter returns after a difficult day, like a quiet act of resistance against despair. For him, these are not trivial details, but sacred evidence of the light she keeps within herself. She is accustomed to carrying her heart alone. When he remembers her stories and reflects her strength, she wants to dismiss it. "You are exaggerating," she says. But he is not. He is only describing what his inner world recognized in her from the very first moment, what she does not yet understand. She is not just a woman he desires. She is a symbol in his spirit, a living answer to his hidden longing for depth, truth, and tenderness. He cannot explain precisely why her presence changes him. He only knows that beside her, he feels more honest, awake, and somehow more himself. Perhaps as you read this, you thought of someone, a person whose gaze held you in that strangely familiar way, a connection that seemed too deep for the short time you knew each other. Or perhaps you felt the ache of never having experienced anything like this. In either case, this story wanted to tell you something. You are not simply someone who can be chosen or overlooked. You are also the one who perceives. Your spirit reads the world constantly, even when your mind calls it imagination. Think about moments when you felt that mysterious pull toward someone, times when your body relaxed before your brain gave permission, a friendship that began with simple conversation and left you with a feeling of recognition. This is not coincidence. This is a message from deeper layers of your life. Jung spoke of the inner feminine and inner masculine as energies that live within every person. The anima and animus also dwell in you. They maintain secret relationships behind your thoughts and decisions. When you feel drawn to someone, often these inner figures are seeking recognition. They reach toward mirrors in which they can grow. When a man looks at you with that ancient softness in his eyes, something awakens in you as well. You are not only seen, you feel how your own inner masculine steps forward, curious about the reflection showing you life. You meet yourself in his reaction. This means, whether he stays or leaves, you have already touched something sacred. Recognition was never just about romance. It was your spirit showing you its depth through how your heart responded. No one can take that from you. You have passed through so many spaces where you felt like too much or not enough. Places where your sensitivity was perceived as weakness and intuition as exaggeration. Yet, it is precisely these traits that make you visible to the love that truly sees you. Not everyone is meant to recognize you, but those who can feel it in their bones as they move forward. Allow this knowledge to change how you conduct yourself. You do not need to chase attention that does not truly reach you. You do not need to diminish your truth to make others comfortable. You can wait for connections that speak the language of your spirit. Pay attention to who you become in the presence of those who matter to you. Notice when your voice sounds freer, your body feels safer, when your laughter rises from the depths of your heart rather than from a mask you learned to wear. These are signs that something real is recognizing you. If something in this story touched that part of you tired of almost love, then rest for a moment in this truth. Let it soften how you judge your past and how you fear your future. You are not too late. You are unfolding at the pace your spirit can sustain. And if these words moved you, share them with a woman who still doubts her own light. Keep them for the night when you forget what you deserve. Stay close to places that remind you of the depth in which you exist. If your heart yearns for new stories like this, then follow that longing, not impulsively, but as a quiet promise to continue listening.